We know that our bodies actually, we just need to put the right inputs. We just need to love her. We need to start trusting what she's telling us and what she's laying down. So now we are going to rebuild. Okay, not with aggression. We're not going to punish ourselves. Okay, we are going to do it in the way that we were designed to. Okay, the first thing we want to do is we want to reject that false binary that I was talking about. You don't need to choose between aesthetics and longevity. You can have both. It's like, I feel like Oprah, and it's like, and you get aesthetics and you get longevity, and we all get aesthetics and longevity. Okay, you can have both of those things, right? The second is you are going to, if you are not already, but I suspect you might already be, you're going to build strength systemically. Okay, so what does that mean? Progressive resistance training, which doesn't necessarily mean more weight. Okay, progressive overload comes in many, many, many forms. We are going to train in full range of motion the way God intended. Okay, none of these half-assed reps. Okay, long length partials, different story, but full range of motion. Okay, multi-joint movements. Many joints at once. Think of a squat, think of a hip thrust, think of a lunge, think of a pull-up, think of a push-up. These are many joints working at once because we also want to protect our joints. You don't have good knees, you can't lunge. You don't have good shoulders, you can't push up. Joints are the key to longevity, okay? And you're going to do this like 3 to 4 times a week. If you are someone who's new to training and you're like, I don't either have the desire or the time to train 3 to 4 times a week, start at 2. 2 times a week, phenomenal results. I've seen it thousands and thousands of times. All you need is 2 times a week. But ideally, in an ideal world, you would do it 3 times a week or 4. I love the idea of tracking your lifts, not your weight. And by the way, if you have a scale in the bathroom, can we all just like collect? Can we have like world throw out the bathroom scale day or something? Don't track your weight. Track your lifts. Track how much lift, how much weight, and how many reps, how much volume you're doing. That's what you want to be tracking. The load, if you want to get heavier, sure, you can add load gradually. But I'll say it like this way. Anytime you manipulate any of the variables of progressive overload, whether that is load or reps or sets or density, all the other variables are going to shift. So if you increase load, you're like, let's say you're doing like a back row and you were doing 3 sets of 12. And let's say you were doing it at 100 pounds. I'm just making numbers up here. If you increase that 100 pounds to like 115 pounds, you're not going to be able to do 3 sets of 12, right? If you're able to do 3 sets of 12 at 100 pounds, if you pop it up to 115 pounds, you might be able to do 3 sets, but maybe it's 6 or 7. Right? So also just know that all the other variables around progressive overload are going to shift when you manipulate one variable. Okay. And then the other thing you're going to do, my dear friend, is you're going to respect recovery. You don't have to earn recovery. You don't have to be like bedridden or couch ridden, doom scrolling on Instagram. You are going to build in recovery every week. Every week. You don't need to earn it. Okay. You're going to rest like you're paid to. Okay. And the third thing, and this comes from my 20 plus years in practice, is mobility. Okay. Again, I've been kind of hinting like joints are the future. Okay. But you're going to prioritize mobility, right? So mobility is strength expressed through range. When you have full range of motion, I know your joints are healthy. I know your tendons are healthy. I know your ligaments are healthy. Right? So that means that with mobility, you are going to train your hips. When we think about hip mobility, we think about flexion. Everybody's pretty good at hip flexion. I never had many problems with hip flexion. Where most people run into issues is hip extension, true hip extension, not extension from the spine, but hip extension. And then the other area that a lot of people run into is internal and external rotation of the hips. So you want to be training mobility in those ranges. The thoracic spine, one of my favorites. We are sitting constantly in a flexed position. We need to extend the thoracic spine. The thoracic spine is the mid-back. And then the secret unsung hero for mobility is your ankles. I know we don't ever think about our ankles, but dorsiflexion in particular, which is the ability for the leg bone to translate forward in space over the foot, that moment arm happens at the ankle Mortise joint. That's called dorsiflexion. Okay. There's every joint. There's mobility to do it every joint. But these are the three main areas I would start with, because moving pain-free is not a luxury, okay? It is insurance, again, for independence when you're 60, 70, 80, 90, okay? The last thing I'll say is you need to fuel properly. We all know the protein story, okay? 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kg, or about 1 gram per pound of body weight, okay? Throughout the day, no special timing around protein, just making sure you're getting that in every day. I really love carbohydrates to support training and intensity. And so if it's possible for you to take carbs prior to your training or after, that is ideal. Although I will, in the vein of transparency and honesty, say that I don't always get that in. So when I can't eat, if I'm training at some ungodly hour in the morning, which is often, I usually will have ketones. And then I follow my workout with a very high carbohydrate, high protein meal, okay? Because you have used up the muscle glycogen during that time. So if you can eat before training, great. I typically eat before I train on the weekends, just because my schedule is a little more flexible on the weekends. During the week, I'm typically training fasted or with ketones. And then I want you to be thinking about dietary fats as a way to support hormonal signaling, and also as a way for beautiful skin, hair, and nails. Okay. You don't have fat, your hair is going to fall out, your skin's going to be brittle, your skin's going to be dry, and your nails are going to be brittle with all those like ridges on them. Okay. Fats are really, really important. It's also important for your brain. Okay. Under eating, like no one is going to give you a medal for under eating. It is not discipline. Okay. It's sabotage. Under eating is completely sabotaging your dream body. If you are on Instagram or you have an idea of how you'd like to look, and maybe that is, more shapely legs, more defined glutes, a smaller waist, maybe you want to cap off the shoulders, you want to have an hourglass figure, you need to eat for that. Okay. If you don't eat, you're sabotaging your efforts. And it's like, why even bother? If you are going to train like a maniac, but then you're not going to eat, like you have to eat. You have to eat like you're building something, because you are. Okay. The other thing I'll say is just consistent training. I think that that's probably easier than the eating part. Although I will say that these like 75 hard, God, don't ever do 75 hard, please. But no 12-week, 8-week, 6-week, whatever boot camp, blah, blah, blah. Just surrender to the monotony of doing the same thing every week, week in, week out for the next couple of years. You know what I'm saying? So I think that what we typically do when we're like, I want to change my body, I want to change the way I look, I'm going to give myself 6 weeks. Don't give yourself 6 weeks. Give yourself 6 years. Like give yourself a longer runway so that you can accommodate for life, because life gets lifey, right? That you can accommodate for things that you could not predict when you were really motivated and set that goal. And that you can also accommodate for your muscles and your body catching up to your brain's goals, right? The reason why we admire people with muscle is because it took them years, again, years with a Z, okay? Because our muscles have to make these like new little protein factories. And then once those little protein then they can create more, it takes a really long time to build muscle. It's hard work, but you do that on repeat and you do it consistently. I double pinky promise you, that is how muscles build. That is how bone density improves. That's how your metabolism stabilizes. Right? It's not through crazy fasting and under eating. So going forward, if I may be so bold to ask you to do this, I want you to start measuring. I want you to start measuring your strength gains. So tracking your workouts, like I was talking about before, track your volume, track your sets, track your reps, track your weight, track your outside of the gym, your energy levels. Okay. Energy is this sort of like wishy-washy term. It's like, how do we even measure it? It's not like we have like a mitochondrial test. But if you typically find yourself like crashing at like 2 to 3 in the afternoon, right? Or you need more than a cup of coffee. If you need the cup of coffee like first thing before you even speak to anybody, I would say maybe there's some energy work to be done there. Or if at the end of the day, you're so tired and wired, like again, these are all like small little clues, right? Looking at your sleep quality is another way, right? Are you able to initiate sleep? Like, can you fall asleep when you want? And then B, are you able to maintain that sleep? So if you're waking up, let's say overnight, what time are you waking up? If you are waking up overnight, typically it's between 2 and 4 in the morning. That's like my clinical observation with people where they have like dysregulated cortisol or like chronic stress. And then your sleep quality as well. So how many hours of deep sleep are you getting? How many hours of REM are you getting? A lot of times, if you have some type of wearable, it's going to give you that data. But if you don't want to do that, then just like, do you wake up feeling refreshed? Like sleep is one of the, I would argue, easiest things to monitor because we all know when we've slept poorly, right? And the goal is not to sleep perfectly all the time. Lord knows I have bad nights of sleep. There's some days where I wake up and my mind's racing. I have an idea or I'm like just something, and my mind's going. So the goal is not to sleep perfectly. It's just to, it's like the 80-20 rule, right? Like you're doing it most of the time. And then do we have a recovery protocol in place? And what does that look like? So recovery for me can be anything from sauna to walking. And I'm going to present something maybe with a little bit of controversy, depending on where in the world you are. I like to sometimes just sit on Instagram. Like I have these compression boots that I love. I love them after leg day because my legs are usually sore. So I strap on the compression boots and they just kind of like massage my legs. And I'll just sit there for 45 minutes. I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I'll do a Duolingo lesson. I'll do language. And then I'll get on Instagram and I'll scroll. That's recovery. That's recovery too. So what are some things that really make you happy? Right. So recovery should be like light. I like active recovery. So I like walking, but Instagram scrolling also okay. Can we track our waist to hip ratio? I love this because you don't need to be on some wait list for some influencer doctor to be able to figure out what your, WTH ratio, waist to hip ratio is. Go to Dollarama, the dollar store, whatever, buy a tape measure the smallest part of your waist, which may or may not be your belly button. Ladies who've had children, we know that the belly button tends to move south after pregnancy, but just the smallest part of your waist and the widest part of your hips. Divide the waist into the hip. Is it less than 0.8? Your waist should be at least 80% of the size, or I'll say 80% of the size of the waist, ideally like 0.6 to 0.8, somewhere like that. And then the other thing you can track is, how you look, Do you feel like your skin is glowy? Do you feel like your hair is denser? Do you feel like your nails are strong? Do you like what you see in the mirror, right? But I want you to also contextualize it, right? Like, how do you want to look when you're 70? Is one of the questions that you can ask yourself, right? Because that question will change your behavior. You're not building a bikini body. It's like, you know how you build a bikini body? You put a bikini on your body, okay? You're not building a summer body. You're building a 40-year asset, right? You're going to be here for another 40 years, God willing, right? So just like an investment portfolio, how can you make deposits into that asset over the next 40 years? So what happens if you do all this? Now let's paint a nice picture of unicorn sparkles and rainbows. Okay. If you do decide to change course and do some of the things that we've been talking about, you'll begin to build a body that not only looks good, so it's the dream body that you've always wanted but couldn't get because you were starving yourself, but it also moves well, right? And you're going to stop like oscillating, right, between obsession and like forceful motivation and surrender, right? You're just going to I really like this phrase, and I've said it multiple times on the show over the past couple of years. Surrender to the monotony of doing the same things. So it's not like, okay, I got this new 75 hard thing. You're not gonna vacillate between like, I'm obsessed, I'm gonna do it, and then I failed. And then I'm obsessed and I'm doing it and I failed again. Because then that reinforces this idea that you're a failure and you're not, right? The other thing that you're going to become is metabolically resilient. You're going to maintain your bone density. And when you're 70 or 80, you're going to be able to maintain your independence. If you're a mother of daughters, you'll model sanity, for your daughters and for the sons that are watching you, right? Because if you are a mother of sons, they're going to choose a woman like you, right? So you model sanity for your daughters and you model a woman with earned confidence for your sons. You model a woman who's figured it out. Not because you were frickin' chasing skinny and chasing small at all accounts, but because you chose yourself, because you chose stronger. You rejected the villain. So the villain is not you, right? It's the system that's profited from your insecurity, right? I think that's important. I'm going to say it again. The villain is not you. You are not the problem. You are not the failure, okay? It is the system that has profited from your insecurity. It's the messaging that has equated being skinny and essentially freaking disappearing with virtue, right? It's the fitness industry that sold you urgency, 75 days, 75 hard, 6-week boot camp, urgency over sustainability. Play the long game. You're not late, by the way. You're not behind, right? You could be 49, 59, 69 listening to this. You're not behind. You're exactly where you are. You're not broken. You're not misdirected. Okay? Now you know. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk, right? Because once you know it, you can't unknow it. Like once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? Your job is to build something. Fuel the build, right? You want to be lifting. You want to be moving and repeat, right? Lift, move, repeat. I feel like that's another t-shirt. That's the long game, right? Take it or leave it. That's what it is.